The Porsche pulled into the driveway like a gunshot through silence. I watched my father's face freeze through the windshield. Same cold eyes. Same tight jaw. But something else flickered there now. Something I'd never seen before. Fear?
No.
Recognition. The kind that comes too late. My mother stood beside him, her hand pressed against her throat like she'd swallowed glass. Behind them, the neighbors had stopped mid-conversation, champagne glasses suspended in air. The Fairview Country Club fundraiser was in full swing on my parents' perfectly manicured lawn, and I just crashed it in a $135,000 electric blue Porsche Taycan. 3 years. That's how long it had been since they'd ridden me off. Since the letter arrived telling me I was dead to them. Since they chose reputation over their own son. Now here I was, and judging by the whispers rippling through the crowd, nobody knew what to make of it, including them. I cut the engine. The silence that followed felt like holding your breath underwater. Every eye was on me as I stepped out, my shoes crunching against the gravel they'd imported from Italy. Funny how I remembered details like that. How much they cared about things that didn't matter. Rowan. My father's voice cut through the air, flat and controlled. He'd always been good at that. Keeping emotion locked behind bulletproof glass. You've done well for yourself. I smiled.
Not warm.
Not cold. Just honest. I did. Without a dime of your legacy. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. The words landed like stones in still water. My mother's face went pale. Victor appeared from somewhere in the crowd, his expression unreadable. Probably calculating. Always calculating. My sister Alara stood frozen by the champagne fountain, her fiancé's arm around her waist. They were all there. The whole Perfect Pierce family. The ones who decided I wasn't worth a seat at their table. The ones who'd returned my wedding invitation marked, "Return to sender," in my mother's handwriting. Your brother said you might stop by, my father continued, his eyes scanning the Porsche like he was taking inventory. Like he could measure my worth by the car I drove. Old habits. He mentioned you were doing some sort of design work. Some sort of design work. I wanted to laugh. Pierce and Lane Design Studio had just been featured in Architects Digest. Our last project sold for $8.2 million. We'd built 3 communities from the ground up, each one redefining what coastal living could be. I employed 47 people. I'd just closed a contract that would change Crestvale's skyline forever. But to him, it was still some sort of design work. That's one way to put it, I said. The crowd had gone quiet now. Everyone watching. Everyone waiting. Fairview loved a show, and I was giving them front row seats. My father took a step forward. He looked older. Thinner. The cancer Victor had mentioned in his text was doing its work. But his pride? That was still bulletproof. You could have been part of something greater, he said, and there it was. The same line he'd used when I'd left. When I'd chosen architecture over his law firm. When I'd chosen East Law over their approval. The firm. The legacy. Instead you threw it away for what? To prove a point. The air felt thick. Hot. Everyone was staring now, not even pretending to look away. I met his eyes. Really met them. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel small. I am part of something greater, I said quietly. You just couldn't see it. My mother made a sound.
Small. Broken.
Like something inside her had cracked. Rowan, please, she whispered. Not here. Not like this. Not here. Not like this. But it was fine when they'd cut me off in a letter? Fine when they'd skipped my wedding because Isla's father was a mechanic instead of a mogul? Fine when they'd erased me from family photos and Christmas cards? Victor stepped forward, always the mediator. Always trying to keep the peace that benefited him. Dad's not well. Maybe this isn't the time. There's never a good time for the truth, Victor. The sentence hung there, sharp and clean. My father's face hardened. If you came here looking for an apology, you won't find one. We did what we thought was right. What any parent would do when their child makes a foolish decision. A foolish decision. That's what Isla was to them. That's what my entire life had been. I buttoned my jacket. straightened my shoulders, and smiled. I didn't come here for an apology, Dad. I came because Victor said you were dying, and despite everything, I'm still human. But looking at you now, I realized something. I paused, letting the weight settle. You already lost everything that mattered. You just don't know it yet. I turned toward the Porsche, keys already in my hand. Rowan, wait, my mother called out, her voice cracking. Just wait. But I was done waiting, done hoping, done begging for scraps of love from people who only knew how to trade in conditions. As I opened the car door, I heard my father's voice one last time, weak and strained. Don't think this changes anything. Don't think showing up in some expensive car makes you better than us. I looked back over my shoulder. The sunset was painting everything gold. The same neighbors who'd once called me a disappointment were now staring at me like I'd just walked out of their worst nightmare. I never wanted to be better than you, I said. I just wanted you to love me as much as you loved your reputation. The engine purred to life.
Clean.
Electric. Silent power. And as I pulled away from that mansion, from that life, from those people who'd never truly seen me, only one thought filled my mind. They still had no idea what was coming. No idea that in 3 days, at the will reading, they discovered just how little their empire actually meant. No idea that the son they'd thrown away had already built something they could never touch. But they were about to find out. What would you have done if your own parents chose status over showing up to your wedding? The highway stretched out like a timeline I was driving backward through. Every mile closer to Fairview felt heavier. The Porsche hummed beneath me, steady and silent, but my thoughts were loud.
Chaotic.
Wrestling with why I was even doing this. Victor's text had been simple. Dad's at Fairview General. Room 304. Come when you can. Come when you can. Like I was dropping by for coffee. Like the last 3 years hadn't been radio silence. Like they hadn't erased me from family photos and Christmas cards. But here I was, going anyway. The town appeared on the horizon exactly as I'd left it.
Perfect.
Pristine. Suffocating. Manicured lawns. Colonial houses. Streets named after founding fathers. The kind of place where everyone smiled at church and destroyed each other at dinner parties. I pulled into the hospital parking lot just as the sun reached its peak. The Porsche looked out of place. Too vibrant. Too alive. Inside, the hospital smelled like antiseptic and defeat. Fluorescent lights. Beige walls. Hushed voices. Room 304 was at the end of the hallway. I stood outside for a full minute, hand on the door, trying to remember why I came. Then I pushed it open. My father looked small. That was the first thing I noticed. The man who'd loomed over my entire childhood, who'd filled every room with his presence, now looked shrunken, fragile, human. My mother sat beside him, knitting something. She looked up, and for a second, her mask slipped.
Surprise.
Maybe relief. Then it hardened again. Rowan, Mom. My father's eyes opened. Focused.
Sharpened.
You came. Victor said you were dying. Straight to the point. That's new. I pulled a chair over.
Sat down.
The silence stretched tight. How long have you known?
I asked.
6 months. Maybe more. And you didn't think to call? My mother's knitting needle stopped. You made it very clear you wanted nothing to do with this family. I made it clear I wanted to be loved for who I was. There's a difference. My father coughed. A wet, rattling sound. When he spoke again, his voice was weaker. You always were stubborn. I learned from the best. He almost smiled. Almost. Victor tells me you're doing well. Some design company. Making money. Pierce and Lane Design Studio. We just finished our biggest project. 12 homes. Sold for over 14 million total. The number hung there. Bigger than I'd meant it to be. My mother's hands stilled completely. My father's expression didn't change. But something flickered behind his eyes. Calculation. Assessment. That's impressive. It is. You could have had more. If you'd stayed with the firm. Built on what we'd already established. And there it was. Even dying, he couldn't just be proud. Had to add the caveat. The correction. I didn't want more of what you built, Dad. I wanted to build my own thing. And was it worth it? Losing your family over pride. The question hit like a slap. I didn't lose my family over pride. I lost you because you made me choose between being myself and being acceptable. Those aren't the same thing. My mother stood abruptly. I need coffee. She left before either of us could respond. My father and I sat in the silence she left behind. Your mother misses you, he said finally. She has a funny way of showing it. She wanted to come to your wedding. I wouldn't let her. The admission caught me off guard. Why? Because you were making a mistake. And I thought if we all held firm, you'd see sense. Come back. Do things the right way. The right way. Your way. The Pierce way. The way that's kept this family powerful for 3 generations. I leaned forward. Dad, you want to know what I learned? Power without love is just control. And control without respect is just fear. You didn't build a legacy. You built a prison. His jaw tightened. You don't understand what it takes to maintain what we have. The sacrifices. The discipline. I understand perfectly. I just decided it wasn't worth the cost. He closed his eyes. Exhausted. Or maybe just done. When he spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. You could have been part of something greater. The same words he'd said at the fundraiser. The same refrain he'd been singing my entire life. But this time, I wasn't angry. I was just tired. I am part of something greater, Dad. I built a company from nothing. I married a woman who loves me without conditions. I have friends who show up. I'm happy. Actually happy. Can you say the same? He didn't answer. The machines beeped. Steady. Mechanical. Marking time neither of us could stop. I'm dying, Rowan. I know. And you came anyway. I did. Why? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Because despite everything, you're still my father. And I needed to look you in the eye one more time and know I tried. That I showed up. Even when you didn't. Something in his expression cracked. Not much. Just a hairline fracture in that armor he'd worn forever. You're stronger than I gave you credit for. Yeah. I am. My mother returned with coffee she wouldn't drink. Victor appeared an hour later, surprised to see me. Alara came at dinner, crying the moment she walked in. We sat there together. The Pierce family. Fractured. Broken. But present. My father died 3 days later. I was in the hallway when it happened, talking to a doctor about discharge papers that would never be needed. Victor came out face pale. He's gone. I nodded. Felt nothing. Then, everything. Then nothing again. You should go in. Say goodbye. I walked back into that room. My mother was sobbing. Alara too. Victor stood rigid, trying to hold it together. I looked at my father's face. Peaceful now. Finally quiet. And I whispered, I hope you find whatever you were looking for. Then I walked out. The funeral was 3 days later. Big. Elaborate. Everyone who was anyone in Fairview attended. Politicians. Lawyers. Business moguls. They all said the same things. He was a great man. A pillar of the community. He'll be missed. I sat in the front row, listening to them eulogize a man they didn't really know. A man who measured worth in dollar signs and reputations. When it ended, people approached me, offering condolences, asking about my life. I heard you're quite successful now, Mrs. Henderson said, the same woman who'd once called me a disappointment at a dinner party. I'm doing well. Your father must have been so proud. I smiled, said nothing, let the lie hang there unchallenged. 1 week later, the lawyer called. Well, reading. Tuesday at 2. And I knew before I even walked into that conference room what was coming. But I went anyway. Because some endings need to be witnessed. Have you ever attended a funeral and realized you were mourning the relationship you never had instead of the person who died? The decision came on a Tuesday. I was 27, sitting in my childhood bedroom that hadn't changed since high school. Same desk. Same posters I'd stopped seeing years ago. Same window overlooking the driveway where my father parked his Mercedes like a trophy. I'd been back home for 8 months. 8 months of suffocating. 8 months of working at the firm, doing paperwork I hated, wearing suits that felt like straitjackets. 8 months of slowly disappearing. My architecture degree hung on the wall. Summa cum laude. It collected dust while I filed depositions. Victor had his own office.
Corner view.
His name on the door in gold lettering. Mine was a cubicle next to the copy machine. You have to earn it, my father said when I asked about advancement. Victor put in his time. Victor had been given a company car after 6 months. I was still driving the used Honda I'd bought in college. The math didn't add up. It never would. That Tuesday, I'd stayed late finishing a brief my father had dumped on my desk at 5 p.m. Urgent, he'd said. Needed by morning. I worked until midnight, eyes burning, fingers cramping. When I finally submitted it, I found an email waiting. From Victor. Dad asked me to look over your work. Found some errors.
Fix them for you.
Try to be more careful next time. I opened the revised document. He'd changed 3 commas and reworded 1 sentence. That was it. But he'd sent it to my father with a note. Rowan still needs supervision. Not ready for independent cases yet. I sat there in the empty office, fluorescent lights humming, and felt something inside me finally snap. Not crack. Snap. I'd given them 8 months. 8 months of swallowing myself. 8 months of pretending their version of success was mine. And I was still the disappointment. Still the one who needed fixing. I drove home through empty streets, past houses where normal families lived normal lives. Where sons were loved for who they were, not what they could become. My apartment was small. Affordable. Nothing like the Pierce mansion. But it was mine. I pulled out my laptop and started searching.
Jobs. Cities.
Anywhere but here. Crestvale kept appearing. A coastal city 6 hours away.
Growing.
Full of new development. They were looking for architects. Young ones. Creative ones. I applied to 4 firms before sunrise. By Wednesday afternoon, I had 3 interviews scheduled. By Friday, I had an offer. Saturday morning, I started packing. My mother found me Sunday afternoon, boxes scattered across my bedroom floor. What are you doing? Leaving. The word hung there.
Simple.
Final. Leaving. She stepped inside, closing the door behind her. Rowan, you can't just leave. You have a position at the firm. Responsibilities. Your father is counting on you.
No, Mom.
He's counting on me to be Victor. And I can't do that anymore. Her face tightened. You're being dramatic. Every job has challenges. You just need to work harder, prove yourself. I won a national scholarship when I was 16. I graduated top of my class. I've designed buildings that won awards. How much harder do I need to work before I'm good enough? She looked away. Your father wants what's best for you.
No.
He wants what's best for his image. There's a difference. Rowan, please. Don't do this. Don't throw away everything we've built. You didn't build anything for me, Mom. You built a cage and called it love. Her hand flew to her mouth. For a second, I thought she might cry. Might actually see me. Instead, she straightened her shoulders, composed herself, became Marjorie Pierce again. If you walk out that door, if you leave this family, this opportunity, you're walking out forever. Your father won't forgive this. I won't forgive this. I know. The words came out steady.
Calm.
Like I'd been practicing them for years. Maybe I had. You'll regret this, she whispered. You'll fail out there and we won't be here to catch you. Then I'll fail on my own terms. I taped up the last box. Everything I own fit in my car.
Clothes. Books.
A few photos from college. My degree. My drafting tools. Nothing from them. Nothing that carried their weight. My father didn't come to say goodbye. Didn't even leave his study. Victor sent a text. This is a mistake. You'll see. Alara called, crying. Please don't go. Please don't leave me here alone. But I couldn't stay. Not for her. Not for anyone. Because staying meant dying. Slowly. Quietly. until there was nothing left of me but their expectations. I loaded the last box as the sun set. The streetlights flickered on, casting everything in orange and shadow. My mother stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching. I wanted her to stop me, wanted her to run down the driveway and tell me she loved me for who I was, not who they needed me to be. She didn't move. I got in the car, started the engine, and as I pulled away from that house, from that life, from those people who'd never truly seen me, I whispered to myself in the darkness. Then forever it is. The rear-view mirror showed the mansion shrinking, getting smaller, disappearing. And for the first time in 27 years, I could finally breathe. Did your family ever make you choose between their approval and your own happiness? Crestvale smelled like salt and possibility. I arrived on a Wednesday with $300 in my checking account and a job that started Monday. The apartment I'd found online looked worse in person. Peeling paint, creaky floors, a radiator that clanked like it was angry about something. But the rent was cheap, and the window overlooked the ocean. I could work with that. The first weeks were brutal. Long days at Morrison and Associates, a mid-sized firm that designed commercial spaces, strip malls, office buildings. Nothing inspiring, nothing that made my heart race. But it paid bills. And it wasn't Fairview. I ate ramen most nights, walked to work to save gas money, spent weekends at the library, sketching designs I'd never built, dreaming of projects that felt impossible. Then I met Margot Lane. She walked into the coffee shop where I'd been working on a freelance proposal, her silver hair pulled back, glasses perched on her nose, carrying blueprints under one arm. "Is this seat taken?" I looked up. The shop was half empty. "All yours." She sat down, spreading her plans across the table, muttering to herself. Numbers. Calculations. Frustration. I tried not to look.
Failed.
"You're staring," she said without looking up.
Sorry.
"I just noticed your load-bearing calculations are off. 3rd floor, northwest corner." Now she looked up. Sharp eyes. Assessing. "You're an architect?" "Trying to be." She slid the plans toward me. "Show me." I spent the next hour redesigning her support structure, explaining stress distributions, suggesting alternatives. She listened. Actually listened. Asked questions. Challenged my assumptions. When I finished, she leaned back, arms crossed. "You're good. Really good. Who do you work for?" "Morrison and Associates." She made a face. "Dave Morrison? That hack. You're wasting your time there." "It's a job." "It's a waste of talent." She pulled out a business card. "Margot Lane. Independent developer. I buy land, build communities, sell dreams. I need an architect who thinks like you do. Someone who builds for people, not profit margins." "I'm not really in a position to freelance." "I'm not asking you to freelance. I'm asking you to partner with me." The words hung there. Impossible. Ridiculous. "You don't even know me. I know you caught a structural problem in 30 seconds that my last architect missed for 3 months. I know you're working for peanuts at a firm that doesn't appreciate you. And I know talent when I see it." She tapped the card. "Think about it. But don't think too long. Opportunity has a shelf life." She left before I could respond. I stared at that card for 3 days. Margot Lane. Developer. A phone number. It felt like a trap. Too good. Too easy. But on Friday I called. 6 months later, Pierce and Lane Design Studio opened in a converted warehouse downtown. Our first project was a small residential community. 8 homes. Modest budgets. Families who'd been priced out of decent housing. We designed spaces that breathed, that let in light, that made people feel human. The home sold in 2 weeks. Our second project was bigger. 12 units. Higher end. We took risks. Curved walls. Sustainable materials. Open concepts that made traditional developers nervous. It was featured in the local paper. Our third project got picked up by a regional magazine. By year 2, we were designing estates. By year 3, Architects Digest came calling. And somewhere in the middle of all that I met Eastlaw. She was catering an open house for one of our properties. Long dark hair, easy smile, hands that moved with purpose. "Try the bruschetta," she said, offering me a plate. "Made it myself." "You always this confident?" "Only when I know I'm right." She was right.
About the food.
About a lot of things. We started talking, then dating. Then I couldn't remember what life felt like before her. She didn't care that I'd come from money. Didn't care that I'd walked away from it. She cared about who I was now, who I wanted to become. Her father fixed cars. Her mother worked double shifts at the hospital. They welcomed me into their home, like I'd always belonged there. No tests. No conditions. No measuring my worth against their expectations. Just warmth. And laughter. And the kind of love that didn't need a price tag. 6 months in, I knew. We drove to the beach one Sunday morning. Sunrise. Empty sand. Just us and the waves.
Isla.
She turned, light catching her face. "I don't have a ring. I don't have some elaborate plan. I just know that every future I imagine has you in it. So I'm asking, will you marry me?" She tackled me into the sand, laughing and crying.
Yes. Yes.
1,000 times yes. We lay there, soaked and happy, watching the sky turn gold. And I thought, this is what love is supposed to feel like. Simple.
Real.
Unchoreographed. That night, I called my parents. My mother answered.
Rowan.
"This is unexpected." "Mom, I'm engaged." Silence. "Engaged." Her voice went cold. Clinical. "To whom?" "Her name is Isla. She's incredible. I want you to meet her." "What does she do?" "She's a caterer. She's starting her own business." "I see. And her family?" "Her dad's a mechanic. Her mom's a nurse." The silence stretched longer this time. Then my father's voice, sharp through the speaker. "Rowan, you're marrying beneath you. You'll regret it." The line went dead. I stood there, phone in hand, staring at the ocean through my window. Beneath me, like love had a class system. Like the woman who made me feel whole wasn't good enough because her father worked with his hands. Isla found me an hour later, staring at nothing. "What's wrong?" "My parents. They won't accept you." She wrapped her arms around me. "Then they don't accept us. We'll build our own family." And we did. But the invitation I sent them 3 months later came back unopened, return to sender scrawled in my mother's perfect handwriting. And I realized some bridges don't just burn. They turn to ash and blow away in the wind. Has anyone you loved ever been rejected by your family for reasons that had nothing to do with who they were? The wedding was 3 weeks away when the letter arrived. Heavy cream paper. My father's law firm letterhead. My name typed in cold, formal font. I almost threw it away unopened. Isla touched my arm. "Read it. You need to know." I tore it open standing in our tiny kitchen, morning light streaming through windows that overlooked a future we were building together. The words were sharp, legal, precise. "Dear Rowan, as you have chosen to proceed with decisions contrary to our family's values and best interests, we find it necessary to clarify our position regarding your inheritance and standing within the Pierce family. Effective immediately, you are to expect no financial support, inheritance, or claim to the Pierce estate. Your choices have consequences. Consider yourself independent in all matters going forward. We wish you the best in your endeavors. Leonard and Marjorie Pierce." Not mom and dad. Leonard and Marjorie Pierce. Like I was a client, a stranger, someone they'd never held as a baby or taught to ride a bike. I read it twice, 3 times, waiting for the hurt to hit. Instead, I started laughing, a sharp, disbelieving sound that turned into something close to relief. "Rowan." Isla's voice was careful, worried. "They cut me off." I held up the letter. "Officially. Legally. They're disowning me over you. Over us." "I'm so sorry." "Don't be." I pulled her close. "They just gave me the greatest gift they could. Freedom. But your inheritance. I don't want it. Never did. That money comes with strings. With conditions. With the constant weight of their judgment. I kissed her forehead. I'd rather build something from nothing with you than inherit everything from them. She cried then. Not sad tears. Something else. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. The wedding invitations had gone out 6 weeks earlier. Cream cardstock. Simple design. Isla and I had addressed them by hand. Mr. and Mrs. Leonard Pierce received theirs with a personal note. Mom and Dad, we'd love to have you celebrate with us. Despite everything, you're still my parents. The ceremony is at 4 p.m. at Lighthouse Point. Reception to follow. Love, Rowan. 3 weeks passed. No RSVP. 2 weeks. Nothing. 1 week before the wedding, my phone buzzed. Victor. Mom and Dad aren't coming. Don't take it personally. You know how they are. Don't take it personally. Like their absence was weather. Unavoidable. Natural. They're really not coming?
No.
Dad says attending would be endorsing your mistake. Mom agrees. Alara wanted to come, but Dad forbade it. Sorry, man. The line went dead. I sat there, phone in hand, and let it sink in. My own parents. Choosing pride over presence. Reputation over their son. Part of me had known. Had expected it. But another part, the part that still remembered being 12 years old and desperate for their approval, felt like it had been punched. Isla found me on the beach later, staring at the waves. They're not coming, are they? No. She sat beside me, sand cold beneath us. We can postpone. We can wait until... Until what? Until they decide I'm worthy? Until I become who they want me to be. I shook my head.
No.
We're getting married. With or without them. You're sure? I looked at her. Really looked at her. This woman who loved me for who I was, not what I could provide. Who chose me when my own family wouldn't. I've never been more sure. The day of the wedding was perfect.
Clear skies.
Warm sun. Ocean breeze carrying salt and promise. Our friends filled the chairs we'd set up on the beach. Isla's parents sat in the front row, her mother crying before the ceremony even started. Margot Lane was there, dressed in purple, grinning like she'd won a bet. But 2 chairs remained empty. Front row. Left side. Where my parents should have been. I'd insisted on leaving them. Some stupid hope. Some foolish belief that they'd change their minds at the last second. That they'd show up and prove me wrong. They didn't. As Isla walked down the aisle, radiant in white, those empty chairs felt like they were screaming.
But then she reached me, took my hands.
And everything else disappeared. You okay? She whispered. I am now. The officiant began. Words about love and commitment and choosing each other every day. When it came time for vows, my voice cracked. Isla, you taught me that family isn't who shares your blood. It's who shows up. Who stays. Who chooses you even when it's hard. You chose me when no one else would. And I promise to choose you every single day for the rest of my life. She was crying. I was crying. Half the beach was crying. We kissed. Everyone cheered. And in that moment I realized something. Those empty chairs didn't represent what I'd lost. They represented what I'd escaped. The reception was loud and messy and perfect.
Dancing.
Laughter. Terrible speeches that made everyone cry laugh. But as the sun set, painting everything gold, I found myself staring at those 2 empty chairs. Isla squeezed my hand. They don't deserve you. I know. Do you? I looked at her. At our friends. At Margot raising a toast. At Isla's parents dancing badly to an old song. This was my family now. These people who showed up. Who celebrated. Who loved without conditions. Yeah, I said finally. I do. 2 weeks later, the letter arrived. My father's handwriting. No return address. I opened it alone. You chose your path. Do not expect a dime of our state. Consider yourself independent. I folded it carefully, put it in a drawer, and went back to work. Because while they were busy disowning me, I was busy building an empire they'd never see coming. Have you ever been excluded from something important by people who claim to love you? The empty chairs haunted me for weeks. Not because I missed my parents, but because I kept expecting the pain to hit harder. Kept waiting for regret to show up and prove them right. It never came. Instead, I threw myself into work, into building something they could never touch or diminish or take away. Isla and I honeymooned in our tiny apartment, eating takeout and planning our future on napkins. No exotic beaches. No luxury resorts. Just us dreaming out loud. "I want to start my own catering company," she said one night, feet tucked under her on our second-hand couch. "Then do it. We don't have the money. We'll find it.
You're brilliant, Isla.
People need to taste your food." She smiled. That smile that made everything worth it. 6 months later, she had her first commercial kitchen. Small.
Cramped. Perfect.
And I had my first solo project with Margot. The Sandridge development. 12 luxury homes on coastal land that had sat empty for years. Everyone said it was impossible. Too expensive. Too risky. The land was difficult. The permits were nightmares. Margot and I sat in her office, blueprints spread across her desk like battle plans. "If we pull this off," she said, "we change everything. Not just for us. For Crestvale. And if we fail?" She grinned. "Then we fail spectacularly, and at least we tried." We worked 18-hour days. Negotiating with contractors. Redesigning support structures. Fighting city council for permits. Every obstacle felt like a test. But slowly, impossibly, it came together. The first home went up in 8 months. Clean lines. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Sustainable materials. Spaces that felt alive. We listed it for $1.2 million. It sold in 3 days. The second sold before construction finished. By the time we completed the 12th home, we had a waiting list of 40 families. The local news came. Then regional magazines. Then Architects Digest. "Pierce and Lane Design Studio," the article read, "is redefining coastal living. Their work combines sustainability with luxury, creating spaces that honor both the environment and the people who inhabit them." I read it 3 times sitting in our office, trying to make it feel real. Margot walked in, holding champagne. "We did it, kid. We did." "You know what this means?" I looked up. "It means you're not just surviving anymore. You're thriving." She poured 2 glasses. "Your parents are idiots." I laughed. "Yeah, they are." That night, Isla and I celebrated in our apartment. Still tiny. Still creaky. But now it felt different. Like a launching pad instead of a shelter. "We should buy a house," Isla said. "We should. Something small. With a yard. Maybe a dog. Maybe 2 dogs." She kissed me. "I'm proud of you. You know that. I couldn't have done this without you." "Yes, you could have. But I'm glad you didn't have to." The Sandridge contract paid out 3 months later. More money than I'd ever seen. More than I'd imagined earning in 5 years. I deposited the check, stared at the balance, and felt something shift. My parents had spent my entire life convincing me I needed them. Their money. Their connections. Their approval. But here I was.
Building.
Earning. Succeeding. Without a single dime from their estate. The next morning, I bought the Porsche. Not because I needed it. Not to prove anything to anyone. But because for the first time in my life, I could.
And I wanted to.
The salesman's eyes went wide when I wrote the check. Cash buyer.
Yeah.
Most people finance. I'm not most people. The Porsche Taycan was electric blue. Silent. Powerful. Every curve designed with intention. I drove it home slowly, savoring the leather, the handling, the sheer reality of it. Isla was waiting outside, hands on her hips, grinning. "You actually did it." "I actually did. It's beautiful. Want to go for a drive?" We drove up the coast, windows down, music loud, laughing like teenagers. The sun was setting, painting everything gold. And I thought about my father's letter, about being cut off,
About that word.
independent. He'd meant it as punishment, but it had become my freedom. 3 weeks later, my phone rang. Unknown number. "Rowan? It's Victor." His voice sounded tired. Older. Victor.
Dad's not well.
Cancer. Stage 4. Doctors say he is maybe 3 months. The words landed flat.
Clinical.
Like reading someone else's diagnosis. I'm sorry to hear that. He wants to see you. Does he? Silence.
Then. No.
But I think you should come anyway. I stared at the phone after he hung up, trying to feel something. Anything. Isla found me on the balcony. That was Victor. Dad's dying. Are you going? I don't know. What does your gut say? I closed my eyes. Listened to the ocean. To the life we'd built. It says that if I don't go, I'll spend the rest of my life wondering. And I'm done living in the shadow of their choices. She nodded. Then go. Face it. Close that door for good. 2 days later, I got in the Porsche and drove toward Fairview. Toward the place I'd escaped. Toward the parents who'd chosen pride over their son. And toward whatever closure looked like. Have you ever had to face someone who hurt you, knowing they'd never apologize? The highway stretched out like a timeline I was driving backward through. Every mile closer to Fairview felt heavier. The Porsche hummed beneath me, steady and silent, but my thoughts were loud. Chaotic. Wrestling with why I was even doing this. Victor's text had been simple. Dad's at Fairview General. Room 304. Come when you can.
Come when you can.
Like I was dropping by for coffee. Like the last 3 years hadn't been radio silence. Like they hadn't erased me from family photos and Christmas cards. But here I was.
Going anyway.
The town appeared on the horizon exactly as I'd left it.
Perfect.
Pristine. Suffocating. Manicured lawns. Colonial houses. Streets named after founding fathers. The kind of place where everyone smiled at church and destroyed each other at dinner parties. I pulled into the hospital parking lot just as the sun reached its peak. The Porsche looked out of place. Too vibrant. Too alive. Inside, the hospital smelled like antiseptic and defeat. Fluorescent lights. Beige walls. Hushed voices. Room 304 was at the end of the hallway. I stood outside for a full minute, hand on the door, trying to remember why I came. Then I pushed it open. My father looked small. That was the first thing I noticed. The man who'd loomed over my entire childhood, who'd filled every room with his presence, now looked shrunken, fragile, human. My mother sat beside him, knitting something. She looked up, and for a second, her mask slipped.
Surprise.
Maybe relief. Then it hardened again. Rowan. Mom. My father's eyes opened. Focused. Sharpened. You came. Victor said you were dying. Straight to the point. That's new. I pulled a chair over.
Sat down.
The silence stretched tight. How long have you known? I asked. 6 months. Maybe more. And you didn't think to call? My mother's knitting needles stopped. You made it very clear you wanted nothing to do with this family. I made it clear I wanted to be loved for who I was. There's a difference. My father coughed. A wet, rattling sound. When he spoke again, his voice was weaker. You always were stubborn. I learned from the best. He almost smiled. Almost. Victor tells me you're doing well. Some design company. Making money. Pierce and Lane Design Studio. We just finished our biggest project. 12 homes. Sold for over 14 million total. The number hung there. Bigger than I'd meant it to be. My mother's hands stilled completely. My father's expression didn't change. But something flickered behind his eyes. Calculation. Assessment. That's impressive. It is. You could have had more. If you'd stayed with the firm. Built on what we'd already established. And there it was. Even dying, he couldn't just be proud. Had to add the caveat. The correction. I didn't want more of what you built, Dad. I wanted to build my own thing. And was it worth it? Losing your family over pride. The question hit like a slap. I didn't lose my family over pride. I lost you because you made me choose between being myself and being acceptable. Those aren't the same thing. My mother stood abruptly. I need coffee. She left before either of us could respond. My father and I sat in the silence she left behind. Your mother misses you, he said finally. She has a funny way of showing it. She wanted to come to your wedding. I wouldn't let her. The admission caught me off guard. Why? Because you were making a mistake. And I thought if we all held firm, you'd see sense. Come back. Do things the right way. The right way. Your way. The Pierce way. The way that's kept this family powerful for 3 generations. I leaned forward. Dad, do you want to know what I learned? Power without love is just control. And control without respect is just fear. You didn't build a legacy. You built a prison. His jaw tightened. You don't understand what it takes to maintain what we have. The sacrifices. The discipline. I understand perfectly. I just decided it wasn't worth the cost. He closed his eyes.
Exhausted.
Or maybe just done. When he spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. You could have been part of something greater. The same words he'd said at the fundraiser. The same refrain he'd been singing my entire life. But this time, I wasn't angry. I was just tired. I am part of something greater, Dad. I built a company from nothing. I married a woman who loves me without conditions. I have friends who show up. I'm happy. Actually happy.
Can you say the same?
He didn't answer. The machines beeped. Steady. Mechanical. Marking time neither of us could stop. I'm dying, Rowan. I know. And you came anyway. I did. Why? I thought about it.
Really thought about it.
Because despite everything, you're still my father. And I needed to look you in the eye one more time and know I tried. That I showed up. Even when you didn't. Something in his expression cracked. Not much. Just a hairline fracture in that armor he'd worn forever. You're stronger than I gave you credit for.
Yeah.
I am. My mother returned with coffee she wouldn't drink. Victor appeared an hour later, surprised to see me. Alara came at dinner, crying the moment she walked in. We sat there together. The Pierce family. Fractured. Broken. But present. My father died 3 days later. I was in the hallway when it happened, talking to a doctor about discharge papers that would never be needed. Victor came out face pale. He's gone. I nodded. Felt nothing. Then everything. Then nothing again. You should go in. Say goodbye. I walked back into that room. My mother was sobbing. Alara too. Victor stood rigid, trying to hold it together. I looked at my father's face. Peaceful now. Finally quiet. And I whispered, I hope you find whatever you were looking for. Then I walked out. The funeral was 3 days later. Big. Elaborate. Everyone who was anyone in Fairview attended. Politicians. Lawyers. Business moguls. They all said the same things. He was a great man. A pillar of the community. He'll be missed. I sat in the front row, listening to them eulogize a man they didn't really know. A man who measured worth in dollar signs and reputations. When it ended, people approached me, offering condolences, asking about my life. I heard you're quite successful now, Mrs. Henderson said, the same woman who'd once called me a disappointment at a dinner party. I'm doing well. Your father must have been so proud. I smiled, said nothing, let the lie hang there unchallenged. 1 week later, the lawyer called. Will reading. Tuesday at 2. And I knew before I even walked into that conference room what was coming.
But I went anyway.
Because some endings need to be witnessed. Have you ever attended a funeral and realized you were mourning the relationship you never had instead of the person who died? The law office smelled like leather and old money. I arrived exactly on time. Victor and Alara were already there, sitting in high-backed chairs that looked like thrones. My mother sat between them, spine straight, face composed. They all looked at me when I walked in. Victor with calculation. Alara with sadness. My mother with something I couldn't name. The lawyer, Robert Davidson, had been my father's friend for 30 years. He greeted me with a handshake that felt like a formality.
Rowan, good to see you.
Though I wish it were under better circumstances. Robert. We sat. The office felt designed to intimidate. Dark wood. Heavy curtains. Portraits of stern men who'd probably never smiled. Shall we begin? Robert opened a folder thick with documents. Leonard Pierce's last will and testament, dated March 15th of this year. 6 months ago, right after his diagnosis. Robert cleared his throat. I'll skip the legal preamble and get to the distributions. Leonard was very specific about his wishes. I sat back, arms crossed, already knowing. To my son Victor Pierce, I leave the family law firm, Pierce and Associates, including all assets, client lists, and partnerships. Additionally, the family estate at 1247 Willowbrook Lane, all associated properties, and the investment portfolio valued at approximately $4.2 million. Victor nodded. No surprise there. To my daughter Alara Pierce, I leave the lake house at Cedar Point, the Mercedes sedan, and a trust fund valued at $1.5 million to be distributed quarterly. Alara wiped her eyes. Still crying. Always crying. Robert paused. Looked at me. His expression was apologetic. Or maybe pitying. To my son Rowan Pierce. Everyone leaned forward slightly. I leave my watch collection, valued at approximately $15,000, and my personal library. Silence. A watch collection. And books. Victor's mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, but close. My mother stared at her hands. Alara looked horrified. That's it? That's all he left Rowan? Robert shifted uncomfortably. There is a note. Leonard wrote it himself. Would you like me to read it?
Sure, I said.
Voice steady.
Calm.
Let's hear it. Robert unfolded a piece of paper. My father's handwriting.
Strong. Angular.
Unforgiving. Rowan chose his path. He rejected the family business, the family values, and the family name. He made it clear he wanted independence. I am honoring that choice. He will receive nothing of substance because he has made it clear he needs nothing from us. May he find success on his own terms, as he insisted he would. The words landed like stones. Victor looked satisfied. Alara looked gutted. My mother looked away. Robert set down the paper. I'm sorry, Rowan. I advised your father to reconsider, but he was adamant. I'm sure he was. If you wish to contest. I don't. Everyone looked at me. You don't want to contest? Victor leaned forward. Rowan, Dad cut you out completely. You have legal grounds. I don't want it. Don't be stupid. That's millions of dollars. The estate alone is worth. I know what it's worth, Victor. And I don't want it. My mother finally spoke. Rowan, please. Don't make this harder than it has to be. You have rights. Rights to what? Money that comes with conditions even from beyond the grave? No thanks. I stood, buttoned my jacket, looked at each of them.
Victor.
Still calculating. Still trying to figure out my angle. Alara.
Crying.
Again. Always. My mother. Broken. Finally broken. Keep it, I said quietly. Every cent. The house. The firm. The cars. The investments. All of it. I don't need his money. I never did. Rowan, you're not thinking clearly, my mother said. You're hurt, but… I'm not hurt, Mom. I'm free. You all still don't get it. While you were measuring my worth by inheritance, I was building my own empire. Pierce and Lane just signed a contract worth $18 million. We're designing an entire waterfront community. 50 homes. A commercial district. Parks. The room went silent. I own 3 properties. One of them is worth more than Dad's estate. My company's valuation crossed 8 figures last quarter. I drive a Porsche I paid cash for. I have a wife who loves me. Friends who show up. A life I built from scratch. I walked toward the door. Stopped. Looked back. So keep your inheritance. Keep your legacy. Keep your precious Pierce name. Because I don't need any of it. I already built something better. Victor's face had gone pale. My mother stood. You've changed. I smiled. Not bitter. Not angry. Just honest.
No, Mom.
I just stopped begging for love that had a price tag. I walked out of that office into afternoon sun that felt like freedom. Behind me, I heard Alara crying, Victor saying something sharp, my mother's voice, cracking for the first time. But I didn't stop, didn't look back. I got in my Porsche, the leather warm from the sun, and sat there for a moment. Then I called Isla. How'd it go? Exactly as expected. He left me nothing. I'm sorry. Don't be. I meant what I said. We don't need it. I know. But still. That must hurt. I thought about it. Really searched for the hurt. Found only relief. The only thing that hurts is that it took him dying to realize he was wrong about me. And even then, he couldn't admit it. You deserve better. I know. And I found it.
With you.
She laughed. That sound that made everything lighter. Come home. I made dinner. Your favorite. I'm on my way. I started the engine. The Porsche purred to life. And as I drove out of Fairview one last time, past the perfect lawns and perfect houses and perfectly miserable people, I realized something. The greatest revenge isn't proving them wrong. It's living so well that their judgment becomes irrelevant. And I'd already won. Have you ever walked away from something everyone said you needed, only to discover you were better off without it? The hospital bed looked smaller than I remembered. My father lay there, machines beeping their steady rhythm, marking time he didn't have left. 3 days. That's what the doctor said. Maybe less. I'd been sitting there for 2 hours, watching him sleep, watching him struggle to breathe, watching a man who'd spent his entire life in control slowly lose his grip on everything. My mother had gone home to shower. Victor was handling calls. Alara was somewhere crying. Again. It was just us. Father and son. Finally alone. His eyes opened. Cloudy. Unfocused. Then they found me. Still here. Still here. He coughed. That wet, rattling sound that meant everything was shutting down. You don't have to stay. I know. Then why are you? Good question. One I'd been asking myself for 3 days. Because I needed to see if you'd say it. Say what? That you were wrong. That you're sorry. That you should have loved me for who I was instead of punishing me for who I wasn't. He closed his eyes. Is that what you think I did? Punished you. What else would you call it? Silence. Just the machines. Just his labored breathing. I wanted to prepare you, he said finally, for the real world. The world doesn't care about dreams or feelings or what makes you happy. It cares about results, about power, about winning. And look where that got you. Dying alone, surrounded by people who stayed out of obligation, not love. Something flickered across his face.
Pain.
Not physical. Deeper. You think I don't know that? His voice cracked. You think I don't see it? That I built my entire life on a foundation of respect that was really just fear? That I sacrificed connection for control? I leaned forward. This was new. This crack in the armor. Then why not say it? Why not admit you were wrong? Because I wasn't wrong. He opened his eyes. Met mine. Not about everything. The world is brutal, Rowan. It chews up dreamers. I was trying to save you from that. By destroying me first, by making you strong enough to survive it. I laughed. Sharp. Bitter. Strong? I left your house broken. Convinced I wasn't good enough. That my dreams didn't matter. That love was something you had to earn. You didn't make me strong, Dad. You made me doubt everything about myself. He looked away. Then I failed. Yeah, you did. The machines beeped. Steady. Unforgiving. I heard about your company, he said after a long silence. Victor showed me the article. The one in that magazine. Architect's Digest. Your designs. They're good. Really good. I waited for the caveat. The correction. The but. It didn't come. Thank you. You did it without me. Without any of us. I did. That takes strength. Real strength. He coughed again. Longer this time. When he spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. Maybe you were strong all along. Maybe I just couldn't see it. It wasn't an apology. Not really. but it was the closest he'd ever come. The will, he said. Robert told me you didn't contest it.
No.
Why not? Because I don't want your money. I never did. I wanted your approval, your pride, your love. Money was just the weapon you used to control us. I'm done being controlled. He nodded slowly. You were always the smart one. Smarter than Victor. Smarter than me. Victor knows how to play the game.
But you?
You changed the rules. I had to. Your game was killing me. I know. 2 words.
Simple.
Devastating. Do you? I leaned forward. Do you really understand what you did? You had a son who loved you, who wanted nothing more than to make you proud. And you took that love and turned it into a weapon. You made me feel worthless for being myself. Tears formed in his eyes. The first time I'd ever seen him cry. I'm sorry. The words were so quiet I almost missed them.
What?
I'm sorry. For all of it. For not seeing you. For not loving you the way you needed to be loved. A tear slid down his cheek. I was so focused on building a legacy that I forgot to build a family. My throat tightened. All these years. All this pain. And here it was. The apology I'd stopped believing would ever come. I forgive you, I said. And meant it. Not for him. For me. Because holding on to that anger was like drinking poison and expecting him to die from it. He smiled.
Weak. Broken.
But real. You're a better man than I ever was. I hope so. We sat in silence then. Not comfortable, but not hostile either. Just 2 people who'd wasted so much time fighting instead of understanding. Tell me about her, he said suddenly. Your wife, Isla? Victor said, she makes you happy. She does. She's everything you said she wasn't good enough to be. And she's everything I never knew I needed. I'd like to meet her. It's a little late for that. I know. But still, I'd like to know about her. So I told him. About how we met. About the proposal on the beach. About building a life together from nothing. About love that didn't come with conditions or price tags. He listened. Really listened. And when I finished, he nodded. You chose well. I did. Better than I did. He glanced toward the door where my mother would return. I loved your mother, but I never knew how to show her. Never made time for it. Always too busy building, planning, winning. It's not too late to tell her. It is. But thank you for saying it. His breathing grew shallower. The machines beeped faster. A nurse came in, checked his vitals, left quietly. I'm tired, Rowan. I know. Will you stay? Until.
Yeah.
I'll stay. He closed his eyes, squeezed my hand once, barely, and 3 hours later, with my mother on one side and me on the other, Leonard Pierce took his last breath. No final words. No dramatic moment. Just a man slipping quietly into whatever comes next. My mother sobbed. Victor stood rigid. Elara collapsed. And I sat there, holding my father's still warm hand, and felt something shift inside me. Not grief exactly. Not relief. Something else. Closure. The kind that comes when you realize the person you'd been fighting wasn't really your enemy. Just someone who didn't know any better. Who'd been taught the same broken lessons and passed them down like heirlooms. I stayed until the funeral home came. Until they wheeled him away. Until my family scattered back to their corners. Then I walked out of that hospital into cool evening air that felt like a new beginning. And I drove home to Isla, to the life I'd built, to the future I'd chosen. Because some stories don't end with reconciliation. Some end with understanding, with forgiveness, with letting go. And that was enough. Have you ever forgiven someone not because they deserved it, but because you needed to be free? The ocean looked different from our new home. Isla and I stood on the deck, watching the sun pour gold over the water, the house we'd built together finally complete. Clean lines, open spaces, light and love without conditions. 6 months had passed since my father's funeral, since the will reading, since I'd walked away from everything the Pierce family stood for. In that time, Pierce and Lane had thrived. Our designs weren't just buildings, They were communities. Architecture with heart. When my phone buzzed, it was Victor. I hesitated, but Isla nodded. He sounded different, tired, honest. He told me he was selling Dad's firm. Because I hate it, he said. I became him, cold and distant. For the first time, he apologized for not standing by me, for being jealous that I'd escaped. He wanted to meet Isla, no conditions attached. For once, I said yes. Moments later, Alara called. She'd heard about Victor and confessed she'd postponed her wedding. I realized I was marrying him for Dad, not me, she said. She wanted to study marine biology. The dream Dad had called impractical. I told her to go for it. Her laughter came light and real. I miss you, she said. Can I visit? For the first time, I said, anytime. That weekend, we hosted our first family dinner. My siblings came. Even my mother, smaller, quieter, showed up. We ate under fading sunlight, speaking of everything except the past. It wasn't perfect, but it was healing, like a bone finally set right. Later, Isla and I sat on the beach, the night soft around us. Happy, she asked. Happier than I've ever been, I said. Because everything that broke me had built me instead. The real inheritance wasn't money, it was self-respect. Building a life on your own terms. Then Margot called. A $50 million contract in Singapore.
They requested you, she said.
I looked at Isla and the ocean that symbolized everything I'd chosen. Tell them we'll think about it. Because peace mattered more than profit.
You've changed, kid, she said.
No, I told her. I just became who I was meant to be. Isla teased, you're really turning down 50 million? I grinned. Maybe. Or we'll do it on our terms. But I'm done letting others define success for me. She laughed, the sound of home. My parents had spent their lives chasing approval and died unsatisfied. But I'd already won. Not because of money, but because I'd found meaning. The next morning, I called Margot back. We'll take the deal, but only if it's sustainable, ethical, balanced. She agreed. I wasn't building an empire. I was protecting what mattered. Isla brought coffee, and we watched sailboats drift across the horizon. My phone buzzed again. A photo from Alara, smiling in a wetsuit. First day of marine biology. Thanks for showing me it's never too late to choose yourself. My family was healing, the ones who wanted to anyway. Even my mother called. She wanted lunch. When we met, she looked older, smaller, like someone waking up after years asleep. I was wrong, she said softly. We thought we were helping you, but it wasn't love, it was control. I told her we could start again, but only with acceptance. She nodded, eyes wet. I can do that. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Months passed. Victor sold the firm and began sending postcards from places Dad would have despised. Alara thrived in school, dating a man who made her laugh. My mother volunteered, painted, and found herself again. And me? I built the life I wanted. Pierce and Lane completed the Singapore resort, our way. It won awards and changed the industry's thinking. But more importantly, every night I came home to Isla, to peace, to balance. 1 year after my father's death, we gathered at his grave. My mother laid flowers. Victor stood silent. Alara held her boyfriend's hand, and I held Isla's. He'd be furious, Victor said, because we all chose ourselves. My mother smiled sadly. Maybe that's the greatest tribute, proof we survived him. Later, she touched my arm. Your father was wrong about many things, but he was right about one. You're stronger than any of us. I hugged her, really hugged her. For the first time, it felt like family, not perfect, but honest. That night, under the stars, Isla asked, do you ever think what life would have been if they'd accepted you? I smiled. I probably would have stayed and been miserable. She laughed. Sometimes the worst rejection is the best redirection. She was right. Sometimes you have to lose everything you thought you needed to discover what truly matters. The people who should have loved me taught me my hardest lessons. The greatest inheritance wasn't what they left. It was what I built after they let me go. I pulled Isla close, breathing in the sea air, feeling freedom in my bones. I'd paved my own road and driven past their judgment, leaving only peace behind. Freedom, the kind you can't buy or inherit, but earn, brick by brick, choice by choice, until one day you wake up and realize you're not running from your past. You're running toward your future. That's the inheritance I'll pass to my children someday. Not wealth, not legacy, but the understanding that worth isn't measured by approval, and love without conditions is the only kind that matters. Because the best revenge isn't proving others wrong, it's living so well their judgment fades into irrelevance. I learned that the hard way. But I learned it. What about you? Have you ever had to choose between someone else's expectations and your own happiness? Share your story in the comments. Your truth might be what someone else needs today. And if this story spoke to you, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Every week, we share real stories of resilience, redemption, and choosing yourself, because sometimes knowing you're not alone changes everything. Thanks for being part of this family. Now go build the life you deserve, not the one someone else designed for you. You've got this.